Welcome to JazzTime.com. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. We offer the lowest prices anywhere online. If you want to know the price of the watch, simply click on the links in the description below. We greatly appreciate it if you buy a watch from JazzTime.com once in a while. Today I have a comparison video for you guys. It's between the new style Submariner that was released and updated for 2020 versus the old style Submariner, as we'll be going through the sort of small differences and what's basically the same. We'll be comparing the dials, bezel, the case, crowns, bracelets, clasp, and we'll talk about the movement towards the end of the video. Alright, so jumping right into the dial. Still looks like very similar style dials. We have the maxi hour markers, which are the circular hour markers from 1 to 4, 5, so on and so forth. Index on the 6 and 9 o'clock position. Triangular 12, of course, at the 12 o'clock position. Still the same luminosity, which is a highly legible Chromolite display with long-lasting blue luminescence, and I'll show you that here in a second. The text at the 12 o'clock position is the Rolex with the Rolex Crown logo, Oyster Bracelet date right underneath that on both sides. The Submariner text at the 6 o'clock position with the water resistance notated, the 100 feet, 300 meters, and a superlative chronometer officially certified. The text itself is doesn't seem like it's been changed. The fonts are pretty much the same in that regard. One thing to mention though, that is for the new style blue Submariner here on the left. Actually, there's been a small change with the text, and that is that they've moved away from doing a gold style text to a white style text, as you see on the old style Submariner on the right. And I actually do have an example of that, so I'm going to go ahead and put down the previous model, and I'm actually going to jump back a generation and bring in the 16613. I won't be doing a comparison between these two. It's kind of a large leap between the two models, but you can see how the dial used to look like with the gold style text. I believe Rolex opted to use a white text to make it much more readable, much more legible. As you can see, it does pop much differently on the dial with the white text, making it much easier to read, and honestly adds a better accent than having the text in gold. As we still keep the hour and minute hand as yellow gold. So it's not like the usage of yellow gold on the dial has been removed. It's been keeping the same sort of. It still keeps that same yellow gold accents on the hour, minute, and on the hour markers themselves, but just a change in the text to make it a little more, just to give it a more clarity and make it pop a little more on the dial. The other part that was changed on the text, and you'll see that with newer style Rolex watches that come out, is at the very bottom, the 6 o'clock position, you can see the little Swiss made logo right the 6 o'clock position right underneath that 6 o'clock position hour marker. You see it on the old style as well. The only thing that they've changed on that for some of the updates on the new style watches is that they added the Rolex Crown logo in between that Swiss made, knowing it's basically saying this watch has been updated, has a new style movement, and we've done a few changes to it. So that's something to keep an eye out for. I know that's been a change on some, like the sea rollers, the deep seas, some of the Datejust as well. Have that sort of crown logo in between that Swiss made. Besides that, of course, the blue dial has a little more dial real estate, as I'll mention, as the size of the watch itself has been updated. It's a 41mm sized watch now, so of course you're just going to have a little more dial real estate, so it does look just a tad bigger than the old style. Now let me show you the luminosity of these watches. So I'm going to place the 16613 down real quick and grab my little flashlight here so I can charge the lume. So I'm going to charge the lume 1 second here. I'll charge the lume on this one. And I'm going to show off my light box light. And you can take a look at the luminosity for both of these watches. Same style luminosity, highly legible Chromalight display. long-lasting blue luminescence for up to 8 hours. So we still have the same luminosity in the dark as well as during the day, but still the same for both watches. Nothing has been changed here. You can see beautiful blue luminescence from both watches, from the whole dial and on the pair dots at the very top on the bezel itself. All right, turning my light back on here. We're going to go ahead and move on to the bezel now. Both bezels are unidirectional bezels, meaning they only shift to the left. They cannot shift to the right. They only move in one direction, hence unidirectional bezel. There doesn't seem to be any changes on the bezel. Obviously, it's just a tad, the ceramic bezel is just a tad bigger, but the font, the general font still seems the same. Also, the dustings in between each Arabic numerals, so like the indications of 5 seconds elapsed time or 5 minutes elapsed time at the indexes, they're all still dusted with a gold to match with the overall theme of the watch. So nothing has changed on the bezel besides a small size update to the 41. Moving on to the case now. The case size, as I've been mentioning for the past minute or so, it is an updated case size. We're looking at 41mm case size, so 1mm upgrade to the new style Submariners. It's 40mm previously on the right Submariner from the previous model. Not only that, they sort of had the sort of updates as they did with the Datejust 2 to the Datejust 41, where they actually slimmed down the lugs. So the lugs themselves are a little bit slimmed down. You can see as it sort of comes at a more sharper angle and actually a flatter angle as well, versus the old style, which is a little bit chunkier on the lugs themselves. So that's the bottom, and you can sort of see the top there. I'm gonna change these to their sides, so give me 1 second here, because I do want you to see the sides of this watch, because not only did the lugs get slimmed down, but the case, even though it gains a millimeter, the sides of the case actually are a bit different. So the new style Submariner does sit a little bit lower on the wrist, just a tad bit. You can see that the case itself has been slimmed down, but still keeps that same high polish. So like I said, very similar to what happened to the Datejust 2 to the Datejust 41. Just sort of overall adjustments of making the watch not too chunky, making it nice and slimmed down and more streamlined profile. As you can see on this side as well. Still the new style Submariner on my left. You can see slimmer case, even though it's a little bit larger. And we also have a change to the crown protectors as well, slimmer crown protectors, obviously to match. Alright, so that's pretty much the changes to the case itself. For the crown functions, I'm not going to go over the crown functions. They both have the same functionality still. If you don't know how to use the Submariner crown functions, I have plenty of videos on how to use that. You can take a look at our YouTube channel. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the bracelet now, as that's where the next change is located. So for the bracelet of the watch, you can see that the tapering, still the same style, still the same tapering, of course. Most Rolex watches have a tapering from the first link down to the back, but you do see that the new style Submariner does have an increased width, to obviously again to match with the size of the case being updated to the 41mm. There's an additional millimeter adjustment of the case itself onto the center link. So where the mirror finish on a high polish is located on the center of this oyster band, there's been a 1mm width increase to that, so it keeps the watch in proportion. And this was also done to such watches as the Sea Dweller and the Deep Sea, to make sure that the band didn't look like it didn't match the size of the head, which was a problem on those watches before. So they've taken into consideration of that and done it to the bands of the newly updated Submariner as well. As you can see, it looks completely, it looks perfect. Just looks absolutely gorgeous. Everything's in proportion with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and flip through the class here for a second so I can show you the other side of the bracelet. Alright. And of course, if you can't really see the differences, well, you can obviously pause the video and take a closer look yourself. But I'm going to go ahead and move on to the class now. So the class just looks like a small little change on the class is that the class is a little bit shorter. You can see it's a little bit longer on the old style Submariner. So just a tad bit. I'm gonna go ahead and pull on the folding Oyster portion, or the safety lock rather. So there's a safety lock. So get a little bit closer so you can compare those crown logos. This one, though, my old style is still wrapped in a little bit of plastic, so that's why you get the sort of dull edges, but pretty much the same. So I'm going to pull that up. You can see that's where it sits on, and pop that open. So now you can take a look at the clasp. As you can see, a little bit larger clasp on the right, on the old style, but still having the Rolex engraving onto that high polished clasp blades. Not much has changed, even the hallmarks are still pretty much the same. Alright, so I'm going to close that back up. So once again, that's how they are side by side. Alright, so moving on to the movement now. So the movement is housed in the Oyster style case backing. So I don't want to put these two watches too close together, so you can take a look at the case backing. So obviously just a little bit different in terms of the brush polish having a little bit more area than the old style. You know the reason why. But the movement itself has been updated as Rolex has been going through their line of watches and been updating their movements. It was time for the Submariner to get the update as well, as other sports pieces have already been getting their updates. Again, such as the Seat Alert, the Deep Sea, and other sports pieces, along with other dress pieces like the Datejust and such. Specifically for the movement updates, the old style used to run the three-decade-old 3135 movement, whereas the new style Submariner has a new style movement, which is the 3235 movement. So there's been some minor updates. Specifically, Rolex has been trying to move more into in-house made parts, so we'll get more in-house made parts on the new style movements now. Besides that, so the 3135 movement, they're both perpetual mechanical self-winding movements. Just one is 3 decades old, so the one on my right here, 3-decade-old movement. The 3235 was actually released in I believe 2015 was the first when it was first put in some of the original some of the Rolex watches. They're still perpetual mechanical self-winding movements. They're both in-house made by Rolex within Swiss specs, so the +2, -2 seconds a day. And they still have the same parachrome the blue parachrome hairspring, which aids against resistance against magnetism. But the only difference is that they've changed the escapement wheel. And they've also changed the shock absorbers. For the escapement wheel, we have a Chronology escapement wheel, which is their in-house made escapement wheel made out of nickel phosphorus, skeletonized as well. The nickel phosphorus helps along with the blue parachrome hairspring in aiding against resistance against magnetism. The skeletonization of it helps with the reduction of inertia, so these watches have a much larger power reserve because of the energy efficiency, whereas the old style you would get 48-hour power reserve. You get a 70-hour power reserve on the new style now. So pretty much almost a whole day difference in terms of how long you can put a watch down. So you, instead of putting down a Friday evening, you put it down on a Friday evening, you pick it back up on a Sunday evening. For the old style, you can probably wait till the evening if you really wanted to. It's not that much of a difference, but it is still a difference. You can pick it back up, and then it'll be still keeping time. But of course, if you're looking to buy a luxury watch, I would assume that you would also have a watch winder as well, which keeps these watches wound. So that might be a null point for you, for some of you, but some of you that don't fancy a watch winder, that might be a great positive for you. If you don't plan on wearing these watches out very often, just every now and then. So the other update, as I mentioned, was the shock absorbers. The new style runs the in-house made Paraflex shock absorbers, which Rolex claims absorbs 50% more shocks than the industry standard, which the old style is running, which is the KIF shock absorbers. You can look that up online, take a look at that and the different specs between the two. But those two are really the main differences between the two movements. There's numerous other things that have changed with the movement itself. I'm not going to get into it because it's honestly over my head, probably going to be over your head. But those are the two things that really help the watch in the long run. So I thought I'd mention those. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and try these watches on my wrist now, so you can kind of see the sort of difference between the sizing of these watches on the wrist. As you know, Rolex typically knows best what they're doing on why they do their updates to their watches. And honestly, that addition of 1 millimeter may seem silly, but the watch looks fantastic on my wrist specifically, probably on your guys' wrist. I just have an average man size wrist. I'm a 7-inch wrist. Maybe if you're a little bit larger of a guy, you probably would want the 41 millimeter without having to jump to other watches like the Sea Roller or the Deep Sea or anything like that. This is a nice fit for if you're over 200 pounds or you're just really tall. Then the extra millimeter does help in keeping a nice proportion from the watch to your wrist. I'm going to go ahead and put on the old style now. This is the 40 millimeter. If you're maybe you're not as big as I am, you're just shorter, maybe a little bit skinnier, then maybe the old style might be the best for you. As you can see, it still looks pretty good. Like I said, I have an average man size wrist of a 7-inch wrist. So let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit here and try to get these two in frame for you. As you can see, still both beautiful watches. Just some minor updates to both of these watches. Just that 1 millimeter difference in sizing. The changes to the lugs, the case size, the bracelet center link width. But otherwise, both are still very solid watches. So if you're interested in these watches for the lowest possible price, check out our website at jazztime.com. We'll have the lowest prices guaranteed. And if you like our video, please like, comment, subscribe below. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys soon.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to Model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.